How can you figure out which people are best to stay away from? Are there any warning signs? In this video, thanks to Buddhist wisdom, we will see that you should stay away from people who ask you for 5 specific things. So stay until the end because the Buddhist monk who is the protagonist of this story will give us some extremely important advice for our good. But before continuing, if you haven't already done so, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to know when we publish new content for your spiritual growth. In the heart of a quiet Japanese village, nestled among green hills and babbling streams, stood an ancient Buddhist temple. Its serene aura, steeped in centuries of meditation and prayer, attracted visitors from far and wide, seeking comfort, guidance, and wisdom from its venerable resident monk, Sensei Kenji. Sensei Kenji, a beacon of enlightenment with his silver-gray hair and eyes that reflected an unfathomable calm, was renowned for his profound understanding of human nature and his ability to illuminate paths to inner peace and spiritual growth. His wisdom, honed by years of rigorous practice and contemplation, was a balm to the weary souls of the modern world. Every day, people from all walks of life flocked to the temple, hoping to glean even a crumb of his legendary wisdom. One cool morning, with the dew still clinging to the leaves and the melodious song of birds filling the air, a diverse group had gathered in the temple courtyard. There were young and old, rich and poor, healthy and sick. They had all come with one purpose: to listen to the words of Sensei Kenji. As the sun began its ascent, casting long shadows and a warm golden glow, Sensei Kenji emerged from his humble abode. His pace was slow but purposeful, his presence imposing but gentle. He sat on a worn cushion beneath an ancient ginkgo tree, whose fan-shaped leaves rustled gently in the morning breeze, creating a natural canopy above his head. "Welcome, my dears," he began, his deep, resonant voice echoing in the quiet courtyard. "Today, we will discuss a crucial aspect of our journey to wisdom and fulfillment: the art of discernment in our relationships. Specifically, we will address toxic interactions that hinder our growth and inner peace." A murmur of anticipation spread through the crowd. All eyes were fixed on Sensei Kenji, their faces a mixture of curiosity and fervor. They knew that the monk's words had the weight of experience and the truth of profound wisdom. In life, Sensei Kenji continued, we encounter many souls. Some lift us up, inspiring us to reach greater heights, while others drag us down, draining our energy and hindering our progress. As we grow older, it becomes increasingly important to surround ourselves with those who nourish our spirit and distance ourselves from those who seek to diminish it. He paused, allowing his words to sink in. Today, I'm going to reveal 5 types of demands, 5 toxic attitudes that you need to learn to recognize. If someone is constantly asking you for these 5 things, it's a clear sign that their influence over you is harmful. For your own good, for your own growth, you must create a distance, a healthy boundary between you and them. Sensei Kenji began his first revelation in a gentle but firm voice. The first demand to be on guard against is the constant search for validation. There are individuals who incessantly seek approval for their every action, thought, and feeling. They want you to constantly confirm their value, their choices, their very existence. He explained how this insatiable need for external validation stems from a deep insecurity. These people are like leaky vases, he said. No matter how much validation you pour into them, it will never be enough. They will always seek more, draining your energy and your time. Sensei Kenji emphasized that while it is natural to seek affirmation from our loved ones, an excessive need for validation is a warning sign. A healthy relationship is based on mutual respect and understanding, not on a constant need for reassurance, he said. He described how this constant search for approval can lead to an unbalanced dynamic where one person becomes the eternal validator while the other remains dependent on their approval. This type of relationship is exhausting and unhealthy, Sensei Kenji warned. It stifles your growth and prevents you from focusing on your path. He advised his listeners to be wary of those who constantly ask for reassurance of their worth, those who try to make them the sole source of their self-worth. It's important to set boundaries, he said. You can offer support and encouragement, but don't let their need for validation become a burden to you. He concluded his first revelation with a powerful reminder. Your self-worth should come from within, not from the opinions of others. Stay away from those who constantly try to extort your approval in order to feel good about themselves. The crowd listened in silence, absorbing the wisdom of the monk's words. Many nodded, recognizing the patterns he spoke of in their own relationships. Sensei Kenji then moved on to the second toxic request. The second request to stay away from, he said, is the claim that you are the center of your universe. There are people who believe that the world, and especially your world, should revolve around them. He described how these individuals have an exaggerated sense of importance, expecting others to constantly fulfill their needs and desires, often at the expense of their own well-being. They are masters of manipulation. Sensei Kenji explained. They use charm, guilt, or even anger to get what they want. They want to be the sun in your solar system, and they expect you to constantly orbit them. She stressed that this type of behavior is deeply self-centered and disrespectful. Healthy relationships are about give and take, about a mutual sharing of attention and care, she said. It's not about one person overwhelming the other with their needs. Sensei Kenji warned his listeners against falling into the trap of constantly giving in to someone else's demands for attention. If you find yourself constantly putting aside your own needs, your desires, even your dreams, to please someone else, that's a sure sign that something is wrong, he said. He advised them to be aware of those who claim to be the center of their world, those who resent it when attention shifts to something else. It's important to maintain your own individuality, your own interests and aspirations, he said. Don't let someone else's self-centeredness consume your life. He concluded his second revelation with a powerful piece of advice. Your life is yours to live. Don't let anyone else dictate how you spend it. Stay away from those who claim to be the center of your universe and don't allow you to shine your own light. The crowd remained silent, pondering the monk's words. Many began to question the dynamics of their relationships, wondering if they had inadvertently allowed someone to dominate their lives. Sensei Kenji then moved on to the third toxic request, his voice taking on a more serious tone. The third request to stay away from, he said, is the request for constant rescue. There are individuals who are perpetually in a state of crisis, who jump from one problem to another and expect you to bail them out every time. He described how these people often lack responsibility for their own actions, blaming others or circumstances for their misfortunes. They are the masters of the victim role, Sensei Kenji explained, and they involve you in their drama, making you feel responsible for their well-being. She stressed that while it's important to support our loved ones in difficult times, it's another thing entirely to be constantly called upon to solve someone's problems. A healthy relationship is about mutual support, not about one person constantly saving the other, she said. Sensei Kenji warned his listeners against becoming someone's designated problem solver, their savior in every situation. This type of relationship is incredibly draining, he warned. It leaves you emotionally and mentally exhausted, while the other person never learns to take responsibility for their own life. He advised them to be cautious of those who are constantly in trouble and expect you to save them. You can offer guidance and support, he said, but don't let their inability to deal with problems become a burden to you. He concluded his third revelation with a powerful reminder. Everyone is responsible for their own journey. You can walk beside someone, but you cannot take their steps for them. Stay away from those who constantly try to make you solve all their problems, who expect you to do the hard work for them. The silence in the courtyard grew heavy, the monk's words resonating deeply. Many could identify people in their lives who fit the description of chronic victim. Sensei Kenji then moved on to the fourth toxic request, his eyes conveying a mixture of compassion and firmness. The fourth request to stay away from, he said, is the request to change who you are. There are individuals who will try to mold you into someone you are not, to fit their idea of who you should be. He described how these people often criticize, belittle, or even ridicule aspects of your personality, interests, or aspirations that do not align with their expectations. They want you to conform to their ideal image, Sensei Kenji explained, ignoring and devaluing your uniqueness. She stressed that this type of behavior is deeply disrespectful and damaging. A healthy relationship is about mutual acceptance and respect, not about trying to change the other, she said. Sensei Kenji warned his listeners against giving in to the pressure to conform to someone else's expectations. It is essential to remain true to yourself, he said emphatically. Do not compromise your values, your passions, or your dreams to please someone else. He advised them to be vigilant against those who seek to diminish their dreams, those who criticize their choices and try to mold them into something they are not. Your authenticity is your greatest gift, he said. Don't let anyone diminish it. He concluded his fourth revelation with a powerful piece of advice. You are a unique individual with your own strengths, talents, and aspirations. Embrace who you are and don't let anyone convince you to change. Stay away from those who try to mold you into their image, stifling your true essence. A sense of empowerment swept through the crowd. Sensei Kenji's words were a rallying cry for self-acceptance and authenticity. Sensei Kenji came to the fifth toxic request, his voice resonating with a weight that caught everyone's attention. The fifth request to stay away from, he declared, is the request to abandon your dreams. There are individuals who, out of envy, insecurity, or fear, will try to dissuade you from pursuing your aspirations. He described how these people often project their own failures and fears onto you, trying to convince you that your dreams are unattainable or not worth it. They will try to put out the fire of your ambitions, Sensei Kenji explained, because your light overshadows their insecurities. She stressed that this type of behavior is incredibly damaging and can lead to a lifetime of regrets and broken dreams. A healthy relationship is one where you both encourage and support each other in pursuing your goals, not one where one tries to hold the other back, she said. Sensei Kenji urged his listeners to protect their dreams with all their might. Your dreams are a reflection of your soul, your purpose in this life, he said passionately. Don't let anyone belittle them or convince you to abandon them. He advised them to be wary of those who constantly try to dissuade them from pursuing their goals, those who downplay their aspirations or dismiss them as unrealistic. Surround yourself with people who believe in you, who encourage you to fly high, he said. He concluded his fifth revelation with a powerful appeal. Your dreams are precious. They are what give meaning and direction to your life. Do not let anyone take them away from you. Stay away from those who seek to extinguish your flame, envious of your light. An emotional silence fell over the crowd. Sensei Kenji's words had touched a raw nerve, awakening dormant dreams and forgotten ambitions. As the sun reached its zenith, casting a golden glow over the temple courtyard, Sensei Kenji looked at the faces of his listeners. His eyes, filled with a wisdom that transcended time, lingered on each of them, as if he wanted to imprint his words on their souls. "Remember, my dears," she said, her voice a gentle but steady echo in the silence, "the journey to wisdom and fulfillment begins with an understanding of who we are and who surrounds us. The people we choose to share our lives with have a profound impact on our well-being and growth." He paused, his piercing gaze deepening. "The 5 demands we've talked about today aren't just behaviors to avoid, they're signs, warnings that toxic influences are in your life. Learn to recognize them, not just in others, but in yourself. Sometimes we may be making these demands of others without realizing it." A murmur ran through the crowd as everyone reflected on their actions and relationships. Sensei Kenji nodded as if he could read their thoughts. "Self-awareness is key," he continued. "It is the first step toward change. We must be honest with ourselves about our behaviors and our motivations. Only then can we begin to build healthy and fulfilling relationships based on mutual respect, understanding, and support." An expectant silence spread through the courtyard. Sensei Kenji slowly rose, his figure tall and imposing against the bright sun. "And now, my dears, I must tell you a secret, something I mentioned at the beginning of our meeting," he said, his voice a whisper that nevertheless rang clearly in the still air. "This secret concerns the true nature of these 5 requests, and how they relate to the greatest obstacle in our path to inner peace, and—" Sensei Kenji stopped abruptly, his gaze fixed on a distant point, beyond the crowd, beyond the temple walls, toward the distant hills. A look of deep concern, or perhaps something else, an indefinable emotion, flashed in his eyes. The crowd, breathless, followed his gaze but saw nothing unusual. A tense silence, full of unanswered questions, fell over the courtyard. What had Sensei Kenji seen? What was the secret he was about to reveal? And why had he stopped so suddenly? And what do you think? What could have left the old and wise master speechless? Write it in the comments.